Silverman and Jill Ivey will share the places they go online and in person to find beauty, serenity, humor, challenge, and Judaism. We hope this provides you with new ideas for getting through the coming winter. We will also ask you to share places that you found so we can all learn from each other. The class will end at 11:45 today. I'm Susan Behr. I'll be the moderator for the session. Beth Marlowe is our tech angel. If you need technical help, please write in the chat and Beth will do her best to help you out. And it looks like everybody's got their first and last names set up, so that's really good. And since RS cares equally about Jewish learning and creating profound connections, we will also have some time to connect later in the session, and we'll leave the room open a little bit so that we can catch up with each other. Just to make things easier, we're going to email a list of all the presenters' links and any shared by the class participants. So you don't need to scramble to write everything down today. If you are listening to our great presenters and you think of something that is a place that you go and you want to share it, please put that in the chat. Even if you don't have the website link, that's great. Put it in the chat and we'll look it up for you before we send it out to the group. So we'll start with our prayer for study that Beth will share for us. Okay, great. So let's all read along together here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot and commands us to engage with words of Torah. So we are going to hear from each of our presenters for about 10 minutes. If you have any questions or comments as they're speaking, please put that in the chat. And we are going to start with Howard Green. And Howard, don't forget to unmute yourself.
I couldn't do it while I was screen sharing for some stupid reason. Okay, so can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead and screen share. You're good.
All right. Okay, so I fancy I'm a hobbyist photographer, and to make the story short, I decided to use the occasion of being confined and having most of our usual activities restricted as take that opportunity and maybe improve my photography skills by taking various online classes. And so what I'm going to share with you today are some of the institutions and classes that I have used and found to be very useful. So I would, and I think what I'm going to share would be applicable to anybody whose photography skills range from real beginner to pretty advanced. I would consider myself a kind of intermediate skill photographer. I started out trying to, my wife and I travel a bunch. I like to take pictures when we travel. She once pointed it out when I was showing her a picture that I thought was pretty good. She said, just because something is exotic doesn't make it a good photograph. And I took that seriously and said, okay, well, what does make something a good photograph? And set about trying to learn that, which is hard enough. But even once you've begun to figure out how you recognize a good photograph, taking one is yet another step more difficult. First place I've gone is an institution whose front web page you can see here, called the Philadelphia Photo Arts Center. It's located in Kensington, and it's a museum and gallery and teaching institution and center, and it has a print shop for serious photographers to print on professional quality material. It's a membership organization. It has programs that range from classes to exhibitions to lectures and so forth. And they've been doing, I think something I'll show you later, they've been doing a Thursday night photography presentation by good, interesting photographers from all over the world, really. And that's been quite useful. But I want to feature first a class I took called Black and White Photography. And the teacher was a woman named Jill Galloway Sherman, who's pictured here, kind of small. And as you can see from this screen, they're offering it again in January for 5 or 6 weeks, Thursday mornings. And if anybody's interested in learning how to take better black and white pictures, then this would be a thing to do. She's a very good teacher. I had never met her before. I guess I still haven't met her if Zoom doesn't count. And I thought she was particularly good at adapting what she might have done face to face to the Zoom setting. And so every week she would present some issues with respect to black and white photography, and then send students off to take some pictures during the week. And we would share a small group of them, critique one another's photographs. She would make another presentation, and we would repeat that for 5 or 6 weeks. And I learned to take some better black and white pictures. I'm prepared to show a few of my images at the tail end of my talk if I haven't run out of time. That's the first class. The next class I would feature was one about making photo books. Many of us, I'm sure, have already done this. It was also Jill Sherman. She's doing it this February to April. And I found this one very useful too. Shortly before the lockdown began last March, I got home from a big dramatic trip, and I really wanted to make a book that was slightly better than the kind of collection of snapshots I'd been making theretofore, and she helped me with that enormously. All of us have collections of photographs from our iPhones or whatever. Many of us have already made books using Snapfish or Shutterfly or Costco or CVS. And Jill, this class helps you go from that kind of collection of snapshots that looks like a homemade project, and can turn it into something that looks a little more like what a real photographer's artwork would be. So I recommend both of Jill's classes highly, and were she to be teaching something else that was of interest to me, I would surely consider taking it. The next thing I want to recommend is something they're doing. And this is a little questionable because it's in person, but they are doing, they haven't called it off yet, a walking tour, a photographic walking tour of some of the older historic sites in Old City. It will be masked and distanced and so forth, but as you can read in the class description, they're going to go to Congress Hall, Liberty Hall, Old City Hall, Independence Square, etc. and they will be teaching a little bit about the techniques of architectural photography, as well as just guiding you to these various locations. I am personally not considering doing this, but I thought I would call it to people's attention nevertheless. Next is another institution. Some of you may know Fleischer. I don't know. I think its formal title is the Fleischer Center for the Arts. It's in South Philly. Unlike the Photo Arts Center, its orientation is more broadly artistic than merely photography, though they do have a strong photography set of offerings. Its classes, this class, for example, on digital photography might be considered like digital camera 101 if it was going to be numbered like a college class. It's a basic introduction. The photographer Bill Kelly is somebody I know and have worked with and can recommend very highly. And the advantage of this class and the kind of stuff that Kelly does is he combines great technical expertise. The camera is a gadget. It's got lots of, especially a digital camera, lots of buttons and settings and decisions you have to make about how to have it capture the light in front of you the way you want to. But he's also he's trained as an art photographer and has an interesting portfolio of his own. So he's capable of talking both about the technical side and the composition, color, depth of field, and those various things. So Kelly too is somebody I have worked with and would be happy to work with again, were he to be teaching something that fit my interests, and I recommend with enthusiasm. Next, what I got here? So this is a class I'm considering taking, so I thought I would share it just because you can see where I'm coming from. It starts in January, as you can see on the right side of the screen, runs the months of January and February, one night a week, Tuesday nights for 2 hours. And it combines, he calls it walk the walk and talk the talk and walk the walk. I don't know this instructor, Rick Wright, but the way to find out about whether you like him or not is to take his class. And so what he's got in mind here is the idea that you can learn how to be critical of the photographs you view by developing some sort of critical vocabulary. And then you get out there and take some pictures and try to use this critical skills you've learned to improve your own work. So I guess I would call this a kind of intermediate level class. And if you were into, yeah, that's what he describes. If over here you can see, he says level intermediate to advanced skills. So it wouldn't be recommended for somebody at the very beginning. Now,
so Howard, we've got just about a minute.
I got a minute left?
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of very beginning, I want to say that many of us are using our iPhones for photography. Unlike me, if you have a recent model, you've got a very good camera in your iPhone, and there are a gazillion ways to learn how to take better pictures with your iPhone. Let me just recommend YouTube, because and if you don't know it already, let me say this: you can learn how to do anything on YouTube. And I really emphasize anything. Put anything in bold, large font. You can learn to do anything on YouTube, not the least of which is how to take good pictures with using the technical things that an iPhone provides. And that would be an example of something that people are calling asynchronous learning. I mean, the advantage of the things I just showed you are those are face-to-face in real time with an instructor. These are videos classes, and you can look at them anytime you want, in any way you want. There's a variety of institutions offering classes on videos you can take. For example, Nikon, if you have a Nikon camera, they'll be only too happy to offer you videos on how to use the Nikon camera to do for things like, for example, here, children and pets discovering macro photography. Macro means very close up, and so forth. So that's probably my 10 minutes. And if anybody wants to talk about things they've done or privately about what ideas about using photography to help pass the next few locked up months, I'd be happy to do that. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Howard. That was interesting. I like the in-person or virtual with some cost all the way through to find it on YouTube. I just told somebody Google is my best friend. So I'd like to ask Avi to unmute herself. Make sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Very good. And Beth is going to
Okay.
do our screen share. So we'll get that up. And please, as you guys think of anything else that you have an idea that other people might be interested, please share. All right, Avi. Let's see here. Avi, you are on.
Okay. Before we get to anything on the screen, first I'd like to say good morning to everybody and share some personal ways. It was suggested that I talk about how I and my husband Alan have been keeping busy during these challenging times. For instance, we drive to some close by suburbs so we can take off our mask and walk around special places where no one's there, out particularly out in Lower Merion. We've met up with friends, and on occasion we've sat on their deck, had some iced tea and cookies. Another favorite is going up to Princeton, where we've enjoyed outdoor dining at a favorite restaurant. The two of us celebrated our anniversary there. Then we've had a few drives to the seashore so we could walk on the boardwalk. And we've gathered with our little family um, at our daughter's condo complex, where we sat at a picnic table so we could all eat together. And most recently, we celebrated Alan's special birthday at our own building's outdoor courtyard, where we had sandwiches and party cake. You have to be a little creative about these things. That's my best advice, to be a little creative during these difficult times and keep in touch with your friends locally and those out of town. So now I'd like to share some things that we have up on the screen. Some are virtual lectures, some are classes. I have many more, but I chose these few to share with you. We've been kind of, quote, attending services at different synagogues as well. So the first thing comes to mind is about the Stryker Center of Temple Emmanuel. Many of you, I think, have probably been to Temple Emmanuel in New York City. It's a pretty impressive place. And adjacent to it, they have this Stryker Center where they have many, many classes and lectures. And some of the recent ones included those with an introduction by Mayor Mike Bloomberg, and an entire program featuring Madeleine Albright. Those are about some up and coming ones, right? I see on the screen. There are some ongoing series of lectures and classes on the French Jewish experience throughout history, a 6-part ongoing right now series on biblical archaeology, a program taking on the NRA, and this evening continues with the Orchestra of St. Luke's, a program of favorite works, which both features classical composers and more music of living composers as well. We can move on to the next. I think I have the next one on is about Women's League. I'll start speaking about it till it comes up. Here we are. A recent program was something that I thought I'd bring to mind. Women's League is a national organization and international for Canada as well, for the in the conservative movement for their sisterhoods. And they recently had a program when someone close to you comes out. I thought that was quite relevant for being our own congregation. And then in January, there'll be a several part series on Jews in comedy. Following up with, um, I could keep busy here all day at my computer. American Jewish Committee, their advocacy anywhere. There was a recent program on the state of anti Semitism in America from their groundbreaking report. They have things usually several times a week that are uh, important lectures, that all the ones I'm mentioning are all free. Um, Several of the places have either free things, and they always mention when there's a cost, but the overwhelming majority of the things I'm mentioning are free. Next, I was going to mention about Central Synagogue in New York City, a huge Reform synagogue, which I know some of you here at the synagogue have certainly heard about it. There's a famous rabbi she's actually been in the news. She celebrated Hanukkah at the White House during the Obama administration. And we've had the pleasure of attending services there, obviously prior to COVID. We've been there on several occasions. I was saying you may have heard of Rabbi Angela Bookdahl. She's ordained as both a cantor and a rabbi, and sometimes she sings as well. She harmonizes with the current cantor, and a lot of the things, once you go on some of these, you'll see, I don't know what it's called, but it's on the right hand side when you have your screen up, and you can see if you're interested in hearing about Jewish music, for instance, or other kinds of things. You could go on not just for services, but if you're into hearing Jewish music, for instance. And they have a 3-year waiting list to become a member at this congregation. Um, Next, I was going to mention a few things about the Katz Center. Um, the Katz Center for Advanced Jewish Studies is part of the University of Pennsylvania now. It was Dropsy College, Dropsy University on North Broad Street. I think Jerry went there about a year ago with some people, and it became its current use, I think, is for some sporting goods business, but they have retained part of the building. As for the Katz Center, we have gone personally to hear some of their lectures. They frequently have graduate students who speak. And a recent offering was the American Jews in the Future of United States Support for Israel. You can see some of their things in coming events. For instance, I think it's this evening about Jewish response to the pandemic. So there are a lot of up and coming things. Next, I was going to mention some reflections on Park Avenue Synagogue. Park Avenue Synagogue is a unusually large, very special congregation at 87th, and I guess it's in Park, I forget, but um, they're having, for instance, this Hanukkah program that's coming up. But meanwhile, they have daily and Shabbat services, and they're always archived, so you could see them at any time, as well as all the anything else that they've ever done. Um, the Shabbat services are, since there's a full-time music department, and I'm just looking at something, I'm sorry. Um, there's a full-time music department, but the highlight of things is this cantor, Ozzy Schwartz, who's a world-renowned cantor. He's originally from Israel, and during the holy days, he had one of his children at his side who does helps him, and he's teaching him some of the skills, as well as the second cantor. This is something they just did last week with Mitzvah Day, which was unusually special. But cantor Ozzy Schwartz sang even when the Pope was here in New York, and they have he sings a duet with another cantor. If you're into hearing that type of music, also just as an aside to talking about Park Avenue Synagogue and some of their very special things, they have a full-time orchestra that plays, and more recently, originally during the COVID for the bar and bat mitzvahs, they had them in people's homes, but now they're in the synagogue, just the very immediate. But you can look up about the cantors they've recorded. They've done some, well, I think one of the recordings is coming out this week. And I was also alluded to about the Cantors Assembly. They've been having a weekly program on Monday evenings. Actually, one of the cantors, who's these are the three rabbis, and they always have a cantorial intern and a rabbinic intern. What you can do with lots of money and a lot of people, it's quite amazing. But on Shabbat morning, there are over 1,000 people watching and participating. And you have to let yourself go a little bit to imagine that you're really into praying as if you're really there. It took me a little bit to get into it, but one that I see is a very positive for a lot of these things that people would not have been going personally to either a lecture or to services on Shabbat. For instance, they could sit in their bathrobe if they cared to, and if they're on live stream, which is what I enjoy. There are some positives to having the Zoom because you can see each other, especially if they're people who you know and you want to not only wave but feel like you're more a part of it. But live stream, they can do a lot of other more elaborate things, and we've enjoyed that a great deal. Here are the three cantors, and Saturday evening they had in New York with this Josh Rosenberg, and he sings a lot of, he leads and tries to get everybody into things. And they had Havdalah for the whole community, and anybody who enjoys that and sing a big sing along, you can enjoy it, or you can go back, and since it's archived. I think that concludes most of my things. I have a lot of other places and different other ones who are currently on Zoom that you might well enjoy as well. But I thought this was about enough for today's airing.
Great. Thanks so much, Avi. And we will share all of these sites and then some from Avi when we mail that out to you. So next is Jane. If you want to unmute yourself, Jane, so we can make sure we hear you.
Okay. I guess I'm on.
You are on, and Beth will share.
Okay. Going to talk about little known places in Fairmount Park. I'm a guide in the historic houses. These country villas or plantations were built by wealthy Philadelphia Jews, not Philadelphia Jews, by wealthy Philadelphians between 1760 and 1820. The houses are built beautifully. They're mostly Georgian because King George was reigning at the time. And they're filled with fabulous furniture and accessories. Now we start off, we go down the East River Drive, we turn onto Fountain Green, and you come across Mount Pleasant. Can you put up Mount Pleasant, please? Mount Pleasant.
That's Mount Pleasant there.
This is this is Mount Pleasant.
I don't see it. Should I be seeing it?
It depends how you have your screen set up, but I do see it, Jane.
Oh, you do see it. Okay. Mount Pleasant is a magnificent Georgian house, and it was built by Captain John McPherson. John McPherson plundered the seas during the French and Indian Wars. He was allowed to do that because he got a mark from the king allowing him, as long as McPherson gave half of the booty to the king, then he was allowed to plunder the seas. It has wonderful carved woodwork. Now, unfortunately, you can't go into the house now, but hopefully when the houses are open, you can take a tour. If you're a member of the art museum, because it belongs to the city and the museum, then you can go in for free. But if you'd like to take a ride, you can go to the outside and look around. Okay, we are going to the next house, which is Laurel Hill. Do you see Laurel Hill?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. Laurel Hill, unlike Mount Pleasant, it's also a Georgian house, but it's much more modest. It was built by a woman. It was owned by a woman. She didn't build it, but and of course, women were not allowed to own property in those days, but she was a widow, so she was allowed. Now that she remarried, and the second owner was loyal to the king. So during the Revolutionary War, the house was confiscated, and she had to work very hard to buy it back after the war. Now, the most interesting thing about the house is a person who lived in there, who was William Rawle. He was a distinguished lawyer. He was the first chancellor of the Philadelphia Bar Association. He wrote about constitutional law. He founded the longest running law practice in the United States, Rawle and Henderson, and it is still in existence. So after we finish looking at that house, we go up the hill to Woodford. Woodford was owned by a Jewish merchant. He was a third owner. His name was David Franks. It's in Middle Georgian style, and it has was added onto, expanded by David Franks because he had 4 children, and one of his children was a belle of the ball with the English. She dated and had parties with the English, with this the generals and officers. And unfortunately, David Franks came back to Philadelphia around 1793, and there was a smallpox epidemic, and he died. And he came by himself. Nobody knew who he was, so they buried him in Christ Church. Of course, his children, he married somebody named Margaret. Anyhow, she wasn't Jewish. And his mother, who was from a very well-known Jewish merchant family in New York, Bela, can you see that?
Mhm.
Bela Abigail Franks. I forgot one part. Bela Abigail Levy Franks. This is a picture of her. Now the owners of the house today, they have so much money. It's a trust fund that they are still buying antiques, and they purchased Bela about 10 years ago. What?
Words.
If you could pull her down a little bit.
That's better.
There you go.
Okay. Now, the house is in wonderful shape because there was a woman named Naomi Woods. She traveled up and down the East Coast, and she loved early American tchotchkes and antiques. And the house has over 1,000 antiques. And it is really a fabulous house. So you can go see the outside, but it's not open. It was open for a few months, and we went to see it, and it Ellen can attest to the fact that it's really lovely. So we are now going to their next door neighbor. His name is Judge Lewis. He lived in Strawberry Mansion. Actually, the neighborhood was named after this house. The people who owned it grew strawberries. What do you know? Judge Lewis was a patriot, and he came up with the abolitionist. He wrote the gradual abolition of slavery in 1780. It was the first document of that kind in the United States. The house is, the center of the house is federal style. 2 wings were added. The first wing was added by one of the sons of Judge Hemphill. The judge and his wife were visiting Europe, and in the meanwhile, the son put on a ballroom because he wanted to get into the First City Troop. So the parents came home and they saw this cockeyed house. It only had 1 wing, so they had to shore it up and put the other wing on. And the reason we have this house today is when they were doing the sesquicentennial, that was 150 years, there was a group of women who decided to take on Strawberry Mansion. And they wrote away to all the states for some kind of representation, like a doll or a toy or something of the state. Well, it is great fun to go up to the attic in Strawberry and see all the dolls and the toys. Also, recently, they put in they put in a hand painted mural in the dining room. It's also a very exquisite house. Okay, so we're going to the other side of the Schuylkill River now, and we're going to see a house that's very different than the other houses.
So James,
it's
we have
called-
just about a minute.
Okay, it's called Cedar Grove and was built by 5 generations. It was lived in by 5 generations of the Pascal Morris family. You've heard of the Morris Arboretum in Chestnut Hill. It's that family. The house was originally in Frankfurt in the Harrogate section. The last generation, Lydia Pascal Morris, drove through Fairmount Park and decided where to put the house. Frankfurt had gotten very industrialized, so they had to move the house. Well, the house, amazingly, was taken apart brick by brick, stone by stone, and put in a new spot. Unfortunately, it could not be considered historic because they had to use, quote, new of 1926 new nails to put the house together. And it was put together just as it was in Frankfurt. Well, thank you for taking this tour with me. And I certainly hope that we can all get into the houses to see them, to see all the beautiful antiques. So I would say that completes my tour.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was very interesting. We'll have to take that in person with you someday.
Okay.
All right, so let's turn over to Jerry Silverman.
Hold on a second here. Okay. Boker Tov. Good morning, everybody. And I want to say to Jane, I was confused because I thought you were talking about Lemon Hill, and then I looked it up and I didn't realize that there really is a Laurel Hill, which used to be called the Randolph Mansion. So you're muted, but I can't read your lips, but you can tell me later. But I didn't know there was a separate place, so thank you for that. Okay, so put your seatbelts on because this is going to be kind of rapid. And Susan, I have a timer. I got a countdown clock here, so I guarantee you I will be done in exactly 10 minutes and 0 seconds. So here we go. Okay, first, one of my favorite places to go, and it's safe to go there because it's outside and it is open. I'm sure most of you have already been to Grounds for Sculpture. And if you've not, sorry, excuse me, you gotta see it. It's really fabulous. Second is Masonic Temple, and that is my all-time favorite place in the entire city to take tourists. Anybody that comes to Philly for the first time, it's the first place I take them, because I personally think, and I'm not alone in my opinion, that this is the most astonishing interior in the city. It's very deceiving because the outside is not nearly as grand, and you can even take a 12 minute, 13-minute
The Masonic
tour.
Temple in Philadelphia was constructed in 1873.
But I won't let you see
It
the
has
whole
been
thing. You
called-
got to see it yourself. But you can take the whole tour without even going in there. But it is, I believe it is open for tours in a safe manner. So check that out. Let's see. The third one is these webcams that you can see. And I didn't realize until I was checking this one out that there are others as well. So this one is the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and you can see everybody's separated by these barriers now because of COVID. So they've got small groups praying over here on the men's side. The women's side, which is considerably smaller, is over here. And then this ramp takes Muslims up to the Dome of the Rock through a separate entrance so that there are no conflicts between the Jews and the Muslims. But you can also go visit all these other places. So for example, if you want to take a look at the Trevi Fountain and see what they're dropping in the fountain, let's see, let's check out what they're doing here. Sometimes it takes a few seconds on a commercial, but nope, no commercial. So there you see, anybody dropping any coins in there? Oh, there's a commercial. We can get away from that. Let's see here. Next is My Jewish Learning. And if you have any questions about anything Jewish whatsoever, I mean, look at the variety. First of all, you got a link to every single holiday. And then once you're within the holiday, you've got all these other instructions, menorah blessings, how to play dreidel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Public displays, they probably, I wonder if they have the one in Philadelphia in there. We can look at that another time, though. Check it out yourself. And then there's recipes, how to make challah, probably how to make hamantash and chopped liver. Oh, that looks really good. Oh. Every kind of life cycle event, morning customs, prayers, variety of other things. So if you're interested in anything Jewish, if you ever have a question, go right there. You don't even have to call Rabbi Mader or Rabbi Friedman. Just go right to My Jewish Learning, and they'll probably have the answer. Although I did find a mistake about the dreidel, so I already told them that. Let's see, where are we now? This is called Today's Ticks, and I've often used this to go to New York, but you can see this website works for all these cities. So if you're visiting Washington or whatever, under non-COVID times, you can get tickets, but at the time, for the time being, you can get tickets to these performances and watch them in your pajamas. So, you know, you can watch Shakespeare, and I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And the prices are way better than $400 for Hamilton, right? Let's see what are they charging for Hamilton? Oh, those are the live ones. There are no tickets there. See if you go get tickets. What does it say? Not currently available, but you can get an alert when they go on sale. So hopefully that'll be soon, or watch it on Disney. This one is really cool. And I know that there are many just like this, but this is the one that I like to use. So if you wanted to print something in Hebrew, like shalom, so let's do like shalom. Does that show up there? There it is. Okay. And then you can cut it, go to your document, and then paste it. And not only that, but you can do it in Azerbaijani. Wow, they have a really tiny alphabet. That's really interesting. I didn't know that. Or Danish, or even Arabic. So if you ever have a need to type something, I often do that with, like I have an Armenian friend. So if I want to send her something, I find out how to say the word in Armenian, and then I type her a message. Oh, my sister says Yiddish too. Right. Let's wait. How did Avi's? Wait a minute. Are we back on my screen? Wait. Things
Stop sharing there.
Things are moving all over the place here. What happened?
You need to share again.
Let me see here. Where did it go? Okay. How did that happen? Wow. Thanks. Let's see. Let's check out the Yiddish here. Oh, that's Yoruba. Wrong part of the world here. Yiddish. And there's your Yiddish alphabet. So, or Aleph base. Okay, so that's pretty helpful. Moving on. Hallmark, you can get a subscription, which I have, and then you can, for example, holidays, Hanukkah, up come a whole bunch of cards, some of which are animated, and then you can click on it. And then you can personalize it. You can put a message down below. Whoops, close. You can put a message down here. You can change the style and the color. Like that. And then you can address it and send it to somebody, and it tells you that they opened it. Just click on their name, etc. It tells you that they got it, and then they can send you back a message thanking you. I love that one. Coming up to the end here. This was done 11 years ago, but it's still pretty accurate. So for example, it's 142 pages of Philadelphia Jewish stuff. So for example, this is what Rosh Shalom, how Rosh Shalom appears. I know there's some mistakes. Roy is not the director, but but it'll show each synagogue with the paragraph kind of like this. There's another section that shows every single synagogue that ever existed in Philadelphia. So Rosh Shalom, so started sort of in 1802, but we say 1795. And then it gives you the little history on every building, every address of every building that we ever had, and all the major rabbis that we ever had. And then it even has cemeteries. And for those of you that were not aware, Rosh Shalom had their own cemeteries. They had cemeteries number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've always wanted to go to each of these addresses and see. I keep saying that, but maybe I'll really do it now, to see what's there, because I know the cemeteries don't exist anymore. And then I have 50 seconds left, right, Susan? And this is my favorite. Now, please, I try to be nonpartisan, but sorry, I can't help but show this one. And everybody needs to, I think everybody who wants it needs to put this on their desktop. And that's it. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you very much, Jerry. We appreciate that. And again, we will be sending all the links to everyone. I see a question, the Hallmark card site, that one was not free, that it has a fee. And so if you'll stop sharing, Jerry.
Yeah, let me find that button.
Okay.
Okay.
And so our next presenter is Jill Ivey. So we'll turn it over to Jill.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, everybody. So I have a variety of sites that I'm going to share with you. The first thing that I wanted to share, though, is something that I just did this past Friday, and actually have made a habit of doing every year the day after Thanksgiving instead of shopping. A group of friends and I have decided to opt outside. And so we go to John Hines National Wildlife Refuge, which is down by the airport. It's very, very accessible. And the reason that I wanted to share this particular location is because when we went on Friday, the parking lot was packed. We were like, oh no, how are we going to be safe here? And once you get out on the trail, which is a nice flat trail, it's more of a nature walk than a hike. there's really nobody out there. As many people as are in the parking lot, it's a large enough space that you really feel like you can be alone. So you'll run into people on the trail. You should definitely have a mask with you, but you don't have to have the mask on all of the time. And here's actually a picture that I took. We were there not sunset, kind of nearing the golden hour. So this is a photo that I took, and you can see, even though it's right near the airport, all you see is wilderness. At certain vantage points, you do actually see the airport and you get the sound of the planes taking off, but it's beautiful. If you are a bird watcher, it's a really great place to go also. And they have ducks and geese in the water. I saw swans the other day, but I've also seen owls and falcons. And in the warmer weather, you can also see turtles and frogs in the water. So that's lovely. I also wanted to show you this app called Trail Off. And Trail Off was designed for the Philadelphia Fringe Festival this year. The Fringe Festival was mostly virtual this year. They did do a couple of socially distanced, very small audience performances. Trail Off was designed by Swim Pony as a way of encouraging people to get outside and be able to enjoy a performance while also enjoying nature. So they do actually have a course that is the John Hines walking trail. But you download this. I will tell you that the last time I played with the app, it was the day that it launched, and it was a little buggy, but I know that they've been working on that. And so as you're walking, you will hear the different things that they want you to hear when you hit these certain points. It's a free app that you can download, and it's a way of supporting a local theater company. And I will send these links to Susan. I also have other outside things that you can do that are still safe that are in that. Susan also asked me to share, some of you who know me know that I also teach yoga. And so I wanted to share the studios that I teach at are doing virtual yoga classes. So first you have, and I apologize because I have a plugin on my browser to save energy. And so all of these websites are taking their time to load. So Maha Yoga is a studio where I did all of my teacher training. You can see that's me down in the lower left corner. We are live streaming classes online. You can see the schedule. I do teach there, so you can look for me, but I can promise all of the teachers there are wonderful. The other thing that Maha is doing, though, is that we've created an on-demand studio. So if you don't want to take synchronous classes, that's also me in the center there. You don't have to take synchronous classes. You can take classes at your own discretion. So you can sign up. You can take one class at $12, which is cheaper than a yoga class, $15 to buy it, $12 to rent it, or you can pay $79 a month and take all of the yoga classes that you want. The other studio that I teach at is Tula Yoga. Tula is up in Northern Liberties. Because of city restrictions, all of the studios are online only, except that Tula, actually is doing some in-person socially distanced classes at a brewery up in Northern Liberties on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And it's heated outside. But this is the virtual schedule, and you'll see I teach a couple of classes there. I do teach a prenatal class on Sundays, so if any of you know anyone who's expecting, that's a great class for them. And you can also always contact me if you have questions for yoga, or if you want to set up a private class, or I can refer you to somebody. I'm happy to do that. The next thing that I want to talk about, the rest of these are just fun things to do on the internet. And a little personal plug here, Ellen had actually asked me if I would talk a bit about my newsletter. So you can go to jillianivey.com. My newsletter is called Puppies in Politics. It is, as advertised, an opportunity to get some discussion on politics. I tend to lean left, as I think many people at Rodef Shalom do. So I always start off with kind of an essay about politics or about something that's going on. Sometimes I'm talking about personal stuff or the arts. Sometimes I'm talking about religion. I've talked a lot about Judaism in the newsletter, but followed by that introductory essay, I include a lot of fun links of things that you can see or do on the internet. So the rest of these links that I'm sharing with you, if you like them, that sort of link also frequently appears in Puppies in Politics. So instead of having to go to 40 different websites, you can just see what it is that I'm sharing with you. Another personal plug before I get into some other fun things on the internet is the Mission Rejected podcast. For those of you who are interested in podcasting, podcasts are free. You can download them on the Apple Store, on Spotify. I know that Android also has a podcast platform. Mission Rejected is a podcast that I frequently appear in. I do a lot of voice acting. And the premise behind Mission Rejected is it's a kind of parody of the old Mission Impossible, your mission should you choose to accept it setup. But what happens if the agent doesn't choose to accept it? Well, you have to call in the B team. So we have the backups here. This entire podcast revolves around the backups in this extraordinary missions. EMS is what the abbreviation is. And it's a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun doing the voice acting for it, but I also, because I play different parts, I'm not a recurring character, so I can still listen to it and enjoy it. And the other day I was walking down the street cackling and getting some dirty looks because I like to listen to podcasts when I go out for a walk. I have a lot of other podcasts that I have no association with at all that I will be sending to Susan for recommendations. So you'll have a big listening list, a lot of things that are scripted, a lot of things that are nonfiction. And I like to listen to podcasts when I'm doing dishes, when I'm taking a walk. So if you haven't gotten into podcasts yet, I definitely recommend it. Then that gets past the self-promotion part of this section. I wanted to share with you the website McMansion Hell. So if you know me, or if we're friends on Facebook or Twitter or elsewhere, you know that I have a very strange fascination with odd real estate listings. I grew up in the construction real estate business. My father is a custom home builder. Both of my grandfathers were real estate developers. So I love this stuff. McMansion Hell is a website that takes these odd real estate listings and then offers commentary. And you'll see the commentary is superimposed on the photos. It's very snarky, but it's a lot of fun. So if you like this sort of weird thing, so this is the thing about this house was built in 1976, and they've got this caption: imagine building a house with a 3-car garage immediately following an oil crisis. And then I'm trying to find, there was one picture here that was just, it made me laugh out loud today. I'm not going to bore you by scrolling through, but I definitely recommend McMansion Hell. You can also always go to places like Trulia or Realtor.com if you're feeling bored, and look for yourself for strange real estate listings. There is gold out there, and you can get a lot of laughs from it. Completely switching gears, there is the Dodo.com. The Dodo is a website that is basically committed to showing cute and heartwarming stories about animals. So here you have a dog that is training to be a therapy dog at a dentist. And if you follow this website, or they're on YouTube and they're on Instagram and they're on Facebook, you get fun videos. You can see here in the corner, there's this video of a pregnant pit bull. But it's not just all dogs and cats. There was a Komodo dragon story recently that was just charming. There are a lot of bird stories. So that's a place where if you just need a bit of a palate cleanser, something to take your mind off of everything that's happening in the world, the Dodo is a lovely resource. There are a lot of other fun animal pages that I will be including in what I send to Susan. Next up, I'm actually going to stop share for just a moment so that I can turn the audio on in my screen share. So Low Cut Connie is a local band. It was started by Adam Weiner. That's Adam there in the screen grab. Adam is a nice Jewish boy from Cherry Hill. He currently lives in South Philadelphia. Before COVID, Low Cut Connie was touring all over the world. They had a song on one of President Obama's summer mixtapes. Elton John has called them one of his favorite bands. Sorry, I have a cat now trying to climb on my lap. But Low Cut Connie, since the beginning of the quarantine, has been doing these twice weekly broadcasts. One is completely free and public. It's streamed on Facebook and YouTube and elsewhere. The other is for patrons only. You can be a patron of Low Cut Connie's for as low as $5 a month. That is one of only 2 things on my entire list that require any sort of financial commitment at all. You can tip Low Cut Connie. They provide links. But I wanted to just play you a couple of clips from Low Cut Connie so that you would get a feel for what it is we're doing. The first one that I wanted to share, because of the Jewish element, is actually on Rosh Hashanah, right after sunset. Or I guess you can see there's daylight behind him, so slightly before sunset happened. But it was, if you'll recall, the day after we found out that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had passed away. So Adam leads into this with a whole section about what an inspiration she is for women, for Jewish people, but then he does this.
So tonight, as sad as it is, we need to honor her. We need to honor her and recommit to keeping all those fights that she dedicated her life to alive. So tonight, we are going to start tonight, me and Will, with our low-cut Connie yarmulkes on our heads. And for those of you that know it, I'm just going to do, it's not a song. It is really a Jewish prayer. It's called Kaddish. And this is the prayer that we say for the deceased when we remember them. On this holiday of Rosh Hashanah and next week Yom Kippur, we honor the people that we love, who we have lost, that we want to keep with us. So Will, if you know the words, you can say it with me, but I'm going to read with you. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Say Amen.
Amen.
Bialma divra cherute v'yamlich malchute.
So that's all I wanted to show of the prayer. I think we all know the Kaddish, but I did also want to show some videos so you know what you're getting musically out of Low Cut Connie. So this is, he's about to start playing the title song from their album that came out in October called Private Lives. And I've been listening to it on Spotify. It's a really great album. But here's just a few moments of that song.
Put your hands up and let me know, babies. Where are you right now? Where are you right now? Are you in New Jersey? Are you in Pennsylvania? Are you out in California way? Are you in Norway, Oslo, Austria, South Africa, Tokyo, Canada, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand? I love you all. Love is strange and you do what you gotta do just to survive. Put your hands up. You got to hustle and you gotta know that, baby, I got mine. Yeah, Will. Gonna make you proud. If you knew about the things that you could last night, are you scared to lie? Say it with me. 'Cause you know that I'm edging it on the slide. TT's and Manny.
So that is Adam Weiner of Low Cut Connie. He's got the guitarist is in a bubble. They're being very safe and responsible. Definitely recommend following them. Susan, how am I doing on time? Because I forgot to start my timer.
Just about a minute max more.
Okay, great. So I will skip this OK Go stuff, although I definitely recommend checking out OK Go and what they're doing during quarantine, and they'll be on my link, list of links that I send to Susan. But I wanted to share also, Jerry had mentioned one way that you could get some live theater performances. There's another platform, this page on YouTube called The Shows Must Go On. And they have been doing every Friday, releasing an archival performance. If you go into the videos, you can see it. I think they're available for 24 hours. You can watch it live as it's streaming. So you get to kind of follow along, and it's like being in the audience with everyone else. Some of the plays I do keep out. So you can see that this play, Red, they kept up. An American in Paris was the play that they did last week. And you can see there's some clips from it, but they don't have the whole video anymore. And then finally, I just wanted to plug Theater Ariel, which is a local Jewish theater company. Some of you might know Jesse Bernstein, who performed his play about his grandfather last year at RS. But they are doing their season this year online, and they have a new production coming up starting this week, actually, about Jews of color, written by the Jewish Women's Theater of Los Angeles. So definitely check them out, because you're supporting, this is not free. This is the second thing I said that's not free, but you're supporting local theater and the local Jewish community. And I see that there were a lot of chats that came through. I will take a look at those as we do the Q&A.
Great, thank you so much, Jill. I want to thank all of our presenters. We had a really nice variety of interesting places to go, both online, which is where most of our lives are today, and physically. I want to ask if any of the participants have a question for the presenters, or if you have a place that you go that you would like to share. Let me open up the gallery so I can see everybody. Does anyone have a place they really like to share with the group? You can also put it in the chat. Okay. Well, I know some of you have places, so maybe we will take everything that's in the chat. We'll include that in our list. And if you think of something else, let me know. Go ahead, Linda.
A very local place, I'm not sure if it's open. If you haven't been to Isaiah Zagar's, I can't think what it's called, at 10th and South, you could spend a couple of hours wandering in there looking at
It is open.
It is open. What's it called again? The Dreams? I can't
The
think of what it's
Magic
called.
Gardens, the Philadelphia Magic Gardens.
Garden. I definitely recommend spending a few hours there.
Elaine, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
You have to.
Oh, that's right. We're set up that way. Go ahead, Elaine.
I did put this in the chat, but 2 outdoor sites that people might not have visited that are absolutely wonderful are Chanticleer Gardens and Mount Cuba Center. I would recommend waiting till spring or summer for the show of flowers, but they are magnificent, especially Chanticleer. I heartily recommend it. Of course, so we all know about Morris Arboretum, but those 2 are not as well known, and they really warrant a visit.
Great.
Thank you so much to all the presenters. You were great.
I want to thank you guys for sharing also. And we're going to ask Beth to put a link in the chat for the evaluation form. And I don't know if Ellen or Gail can tell us, are we supposed to fill that out for each one, or just go in one time?
You can it's one place for each class, and it might be freshest in your mind right after you take the class. So by all means, go ahead and fill it out for that class, and you can then just continue on and fill it out for the other classes. So what a wonderful opening class. Thank you to everybody. Thanks, Susan, what a great moderator. Thanks, Beth, for being such a great tech angel, and all the presenters. We're thrilled.
Yep, I really want to thank Beth. She's in the background, but she's making this work for us. And for the presenters, thank you very much. And to the Data Learning Committee for putting this together, you picked 5 great presenters. Beth, if you could go ahead and unmute, or allow everyone to unmute themselves. We can stick around for another 15 minutes if you want to just chat, whether it's about this topic or just to get that nice face-to-face time in today.